bunch of questions about how to make certain fruits. I decided to just make a nice tutorial video on how to make a few of them. That way, if you're having any trouble, this way you can kind of understand it, the basis of it. So the first one I'm going to start with is a banana. So I'm going to go to create, NURB primitives, and I'm going to create a sphere. I'm going to go to inputs, and I'm going to change sections to 10 and spans. I'm going to go about 8. That should be good enough. We just want to have a nice amount of geometry. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scale tool, scale it up for about the length of my banana. Let's see. I might actually just change that to 10 as well. Let's see how 10 looks. Yeah, 10 looks a lot better. The reason why I change it is just to have that edge loop a little closer over here for when I make the stem now. So I'm going to right click, go to hull, select this inner circle, scale it in using the center scale, and we now have this ear of corn shape, which is perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go press space, go to my top view, press space again. I'm just going to zoom in nice and close. I'm going to go back to hull, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these edge loops that are going outside from the center. I'm just going to pick one of them, and then I'm going to skip one, skip, pick, and I'm going to select 5 of these. And what I'm going to do is while I'm on the scale tool, I'm going to use the x-axis scale to bring it inwards a little bit, and we kind of want a flat line on one side. Doesn't really matter if it's a little off, but that's okay. I'm going to do the same with the z-axis scale, so we have this kind of pentagon shape. Now the reason why I did that is if you look at a banana, it has these kind of soft ridges, but it's flat as well. So going back to our perspective view, we now just need to curve it. So curving a banana is pretty simple. We're just going to select half of these vertices. So I went into control vertex, drag the box around half of these. I'm going to use the move tool by pressing W. Then I'm going to switch to my rotate tool and rotate it. And it's pretty good like that. If you really want, you could go in and do the bottom as well. It's really up to you and how you want your banana to be shaped out. And that's all there is to do for a banana. So next one we're going to do is another simple one, a star fruit. So star fruit you don't really see in a fruit still life. So the only reason I'm really making it is just because it's quick, easy to do. So I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to change this to 10. Spans, I'm going to change to 8 because we don't really need to work on the sides of it. I'm going to switch to my scale tool, scale it on up. And just like the banana, I'm going to go on the top view. And this time I'm going to select another 5 edges, just like that. And now the difference between the banana and the star fruit is instead of using the X and the Z axis scale, I'm going to use a center scale. I'm just going to bring them inwards a nice amount so we have these nice sharp ridges for our star fruit. And if we want, I can just scale even more depending on how much I want those ridges to be shown. That should be good enough for me. So let me just move that one out of the way. So let's go for a pear next. So I'm going to go create, NURB primitives, going to create a sphere. And for pear, it's a little bit more difficult. I'm going to probably switch to have sections as 8, spans as 8, just to give me a little bit of shaping to our pear. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go to control vertex. I'm going to select the top half. I'm just going to scale it up, well, move it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go into hull. And I'm going to take one grouping of this at a time and use a center scale. And then just scale it and kind of move it to give me that pear shape. So just like that. If I need to move downwards to round this out a little bit better, I can. So I'll just go like that. This I'll scale inwards a little bit. Maybe I'll scale this one out a little bit more. And that'll give you your rough pear shape. After that, we do need to make a little indent for our stem. So I'm just going to be on hull mode. I'm going to keep selecting until it gets me that circle on top. Bring that down for that little divot. And then after that, I could pretty much just modify this however I need to just round this out a little bit better. Though I'm just getting a little nitpicky with it. So since I have that done, I might as well make a stem for it. So I'll go create a nice cylinder. I already have the caps on it, and the section is 8, span is 4. And I'm going to scale this down. So I'm using the center scale, scale it up a little bit, and that should be good. I'm going to press F to center on my object, just to save some time. And I'm going to do the exact same process I did with the banana, just use the move tool and the rotate tool, just to kind of give a nice curve to our stem. After that, I'm going to go into object mode, I'll select it, and move it to our pear. Get a little closer to that. Let's go, bring it in like that. I might scale it down a bit. That looks a lot better. Raise it up. And then after that, I'll hold shift so I can select the pear itself, parent it by pressing P. And now pear's done. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go for, let's do a strawberry. So I'm going to create a sphere again. And for a strawberry, we're just going to get the rough shape. I wouldn't recommend doing all those little details like the seeds. So we're just going to change it up a little bit. So first thing first, I'm going to use the Z-axis scale. Also for the section span, it's just going to be 8x4. And I'm just going to scale it inwards just a little bit like that, just so it's not so spherical. After that, I'm going to look at it from the front roughly. I'll go to control vertex, or you could do this with hull. And I'm going to use the x-axis scale just to kind of give it that type of shape. I'm going to use the hull for this part of it. I'm just going to scale down just to give us more of a point. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to move my strawberry over here for now, just so I can create the leaf for it. So the leaf of a strawberry is a little different than you would for any other leaf. It's kind of got a bit of a ridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my plane is 4x4 and the patch is U and V. I'm going to make the leaf somewhat similar to how I made the leaf for the apple. Just really quick by selecting the control vertices, bringing them out this way. So I'm just going out like that and like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Gonna do the same here and the same here. So the one thing I'm going to change on it is I'm going to select on the sides. I'm just going to select every other vertex on each edge, just like this. You could do it one side at a time, but just for time, I'm going to try this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them out that way. That'll give it a little bit more of a weird shape for our strawberry. Let me see how it looks doing on this side too. Yeah, that looks pretty good there. So I'll do it on the other side as well. All I really want to do is kind of get like that bumpiness to it. After that, I'm going to scale this down a little bit. That looks good. I'll go back to my perspective view. I'll switch to hull. And I'm going to use the move tool just to bring it down and give us a little bit of an indent for it. And then I'm going to go and bring this down like that. And I'm going to also rotate it. So now that I have this, I'm going to go bring it to my strawberry. And this is going to be our first leaf. So let me just center on that. So let me scale this down a little bit. So what you could do is make a bunch of different leaves or duplicate it and rotate this one leaf. We're going to do this a little bit different, and that's by changing the pivot point. So I'm going to press D on my keyboard, and you'll get this kind of icon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that over here, and that way, whenever I rotate it, it's going to rotate along there instead of in the center, which is going to be super helpful because I'm going to just duplicate it now by hitting Command D or Control D, rotating it a bit, and then just repeating the process going all the way around my strawberry. So you can do this however many times you feel is necessary, and that should be good. Oops, I created one too many. And that looks like a pretty good set of leaves for the strawberry. Though we have a lot more things to work with, I'm going to drag a box around all of these. I'm going to hold shift to deselect my strawberry, and then I'm going to reselect it so it's the last thing I selected. So that would become our parent when I press P. That way I have everything all set up for it. So strawberry done. Let's go for cherry. So I'll create a new sphere. Cherries, super easy to make. So I'm just going to go to hull, get that center point. Center on the whole thing. Bring that down. I'm also going to go to control vertex, and I'm just going to take these two control vertices and I'm going to lower them a little bit because cherry has a little bit of a dent right there where the stem is coming out of to go into the actual dent. So there's one cherry, and what I want to do is I'm going to make another cylinder for the stem of it. So the big difference between this type of stem and every other stem is you're going to want it to be a lot longer and not as curved. So what I'll do is I'll go to control vertex, I'll move it just a little bit, and I'm going to curve it a little bit like that. And I'm going to go bring this, I might make that even thinner and longer. That looks better. Bring it to my cherry right here, and I want to bring it as high as I can go, and I want to rotate it a bit. This way it's kind of going at an angle, and I'm going to hold shift and parent this. So this way I have one cherry done, but usually you'll see cherries in like a bunch of two. So I'm going to duplicate this first cherry by pressing Control D or Command D. I'm going to rotate this new one after I move it off it. So let me just do this very precise. And I'm going to rotate this way, and I'm just going to move it so that's touching that other cherry. I might need to rotate a little bit more. If it's off by a little bit, that's okay. I might even change the scale of this cherry a little bit. Nah, it'll be fine like that. So I don't want it to be touching too much like that. So if I rotate it, I'll go back to my move tool and just rotate it a bit more. That looks pretty good. So I'll select this cherry and I'll select this one and then press P to parent one cherry to the other. That way I could scale it down to however I need it to be. And I'll go over there. So last thing I'll do is I'll create a nice peach. Peaches are pretty simple to make. Usually you just kind of go in, and it's very similar to how we made the cherry, where we kind of give this dent here, and then I'll get that center spot, bring that down, and that's really all you need to do for it aside from adding a leaf. But if you ever want to make something like a peach or a plum, that's how you do it. I've got a little bit of time left. I'll make one more fruit for you. So the last fruit I'm going to make is a lemon, and the reason why I'm going to make that is because it's going to show a bit of detail that you might not realize when you're starting out with modeling. So I'm just going to create a sphere. I'm going to make my lemon 8 by 8, and normally you would kind of like expect to shape it out like this and somehow figure out how to bring these in closer. It's not going to look good. So we're going to do it a lot easier, and it's going to look a lot better. So I'm going to rotate this about 90 degrees, and I'm going to scale it out a little bit just to give us a rough shape. So a lemon has these kind of points on both sides, and that's what we're going to focus on. So I'm going to use a scale tool on one of these holes, and I'm just going to scale that inwards that way. I'm going to rotate a little bit. We're going to do the same on this side. And if they're uneven, that's perfectly fine. I'm actually going to make this a little bit longer. So all I really needed to do was scale those two sides. If we did it while the sphere was rotated originally, it would have been a lot more difficult to make a shape as accurate like this. And that's all you really need to do to create a lemon or a lime. So that's that. So let's add some color to these. So the way to add color to your object is we're going to go to our hypershade. So our hypershade is this area right here, this teal circle, or you could go to Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. That'll have this box come up, and you'll start off with some pre-made default shaders. And doing that will allow you to pretty much work on your project. You never want to delete these original default shaders. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a new one. So I'm going to go to Create, Materials, and if you want a shiny shader, you're going to go with a Blinn. If you want a more matte shader, you go with Lambert. So let's start with the banana. So I'm going to go Materials, Lambert. I'm going to go to Color, and I'm going to go for a nice yellow color. I'm just going to go in here. And to add the color to your fruit, you either middle mouse drag, so that's clicking down on your scroll wheel and dragging it to it. But if for some reason you can't do that, or you don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel, or you're using a touchpad, you just right click the fruit, scroll down to the bottom where it says Assign Existing Material, and then go to Lambert 2. Oops. Make sure you have your object actually selected. And that's how you add a color to your fruit. So let's add a shinier one just for sample purposes. So I'll go Materials, Blinn. I'll go to Color, and we're going to do a nice, let's go with a nice yellowish green for our pear. That looks like a good color. So I'll do the same process. And the reason why I'm going to be adding it to the pear is because we have something parented to it. So what you're going to do is you always want to add the color of the parent first, because it will automatically add the color to your child. So as you can see, my stem is now the same color as the pear, which would be good if we had that color, but we don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new material. I'm going to create a Lambert, and I'm going to create a nice brown color. This way we have a nice differentiation in color for our stems. So I'll select it, and I will assign that Lambert to it. And now that we have a color really for stems, I would assign that color for pretty much any stem in my progress or in my program or project. This way everything goes well together, it's all uniform, and you don't have to make tons of different shaders. You can change the colors slightly if you want to create new ones, but that's really up to you. So yeah, thanks for watching.